Welcome, I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly.
Our ability to succeed is not built on the death of innocent children, but our success is our own.
Abortion at the Supreme Court.
Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health is the case that could overturn Roe v. Wade. This is the day that we've all been praying for.
We have the chance to finally have healthcare tell us the truth about who we were created to be.
Supreme Court justices take up Mississippi's abortion law in a case that could overturn Roe v. Wade. We take you to the Supreme Court steps where a pro-life rally took place and provide you with complete coverage of the case. Pro-life governor reacts. Republican Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi joins us for an exclusive interview with his reaction to the Supreme Court case centered around his state's law. Follow the science. We sit down with two pro-life scientists who explain the scientific and technological advancements since the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision. They share how it all points towards the reality of unborn life in the womb and that Roe's science is outdated.
Society has too long answered with abortion. But today we commit loudly and boldly that we will no longer sell them that lie.
The Supreme Court this week signaled they are open to upholding Mississippi's abortion law and possibly to overturning Roe v. Wade. It's a historic week for the pro-life movement as the High Court on Wednesday took up Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization.
Ho, ho! Dismemberment has got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Dismemberment has got to go!
The Supreme Court took up a case this week that centers on Mississippi's pro-life law, banning abortions at 15 weeks. Before, during, and after oral arguments, pro-lifers packed the court steps, many with bowed heads in prayer, and with great hope that this could be the case to overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision that legalized abortion nationwide. Because Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch directly asked the court to do that with Dobbs.
This is a watershed moment for our nation. This is a day that millions of Americans have been praying for decades. We can't experience liberty or the pursuit of happiness without first having the most fundamental right, and that's the right to life.
This day is critically important. I think for the first time in my lifetime, we have real hope that Roe could be overturned.
This is a long-awaited day. I, along with many others, have been praying and fighting for years. For me, it's been over 17 years that I've been praying and fighting for the ending of abortion. It's truly a long-awaited day and a dream come true for us in the pro-life movement.
There is a lot of energy outside the Supreme Court. The street in front of the court and the steps are packed with people. Security has closed off nearby streets, and they've decided to do something unique. They've separated the pro-abortion side from the pro-life side here to maintain a sense of calm and peace, and it has been relatively calm. I've spoken with a number of pro-life leaders, from lawmakers to students, and there's a great sense of optimism on behalf of the court. Pro-lifers, for the most part here, are wearing the color blue with the message to empower women and stand for life.
And inside the Supreme Court, the conservative majority signaled it likely would uphold Mississippi's pro-life law and may go further by overturning the 1973 Roe decision.
If you think that the issue is one of choice, that women should have a choice to terminate their pregnancy, that supposes that there is a point at which they've had the fair choice, opportunity to choice. And why would 15 weeks be an inappropriate line?
You're arguing that the Constitution's silent and therefore neutral on the question of abortion. In other words, that the Constitution's neither pro-life nor pro-choice on the question of abortion, but leaves the issue for the people of the states or perhaps Congress to resolve in the democratic process. Is that accurate?
Justice Sonia Sotomayor pushed back on Mississippi's defense.
The right of a woman to choose, the right to control her own body, has been clearly set for since Casey and never challenged. You want us to reject that line of viability and adopt something different.
The Supreme Court's decision on Dobbs is expected by late June 2022, a little more than 4 months before next year's congressional elections.
Joining us now on Zoom is Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves. Governor, welcome back to the show. It's a big week for your state, and legal analysts seem to believe the court will rule in Mississippi's favor. What's your reaction to how oral arguments went?
Well, thanks for having me on again, Catherine. And we were very pleased with the way oral arguments went. All 9 justices asked questions that were in line with what we would have anticipated. And certainly we felt our legal team, who people all across America and across the globe have been praying for many days now, I thought stepped up and did an excellent job. We appreciate Attorney General Fitch and her team and the way in which they represented not only Mississippi, but represented the pro-life movement.
Absolutely. And this case is centered on Mississippi's abortion law. Can you clarify what is Mississippi's abortion law exactly?
Well, the law that is going before the court right now is a 15-week abortion ban. And we passed that piece of legislation actually several years ago when I was president of the Mississippi State Senate. So this is a little bit of a unique role for me. I get to serve as governor while we're arguing the case before the court, but I actually helped shepherd the legislation through the legislative process. And in essence, it would not allow for any abortions after 15 weeks of gestation, which we think is certainly in line with what is certainly the prevailing laws across the globe. You know, there are those on the other side of this argument that would have Americans believe that this would put us out of the mainstream, and that's just simply not true. The fact is, this is a vehicle also that went before the Supreme Court that allows the court to take a look at the Casey case, which was decided way back in 1992, and it certainly gives the court the opportunity to review the Roe v. Wade case that was decided in 1973 that I and many other people across America believe was wrongly decided.
Absolutely. And I think a question a lot of people are wondering is, if the Supreme Court does in fact overturn Roe v. Wade, what does that mean for the state of Mississippi when it comes to abortion?
Well, and I think this is a very misunderstood concept in that if the court overturns Roe versus Wade, it doesn't mean that abortions are going to be outlawed across the country, even though that would certainly be a good outcome from my perspective. But what overturning Roe actually would do is just give the rulemaking and legislating authority back to the state. So what it would do in Mississippi is it would give us the ability through the democratic process, it would allow democracy to return to this issue. And it would allow us to put as many reasonable restrictions as we wanted to, or as the people allowed us to through our state legislative process. And that's the thing that folks just simply don't understand a lot of times, is that the Roe v. Wade case gave a constitutional right to an abortion. And I believe if you simply read the Constitution, there is no such constitutional right in our Constitution.
With that being said, I'm curious, have you thought about the fact that it could be your state that ultimately does reverse and undo Roe v. Wade?
Well, clearly that would be a great opportunity. It's been a humbling experience this entire week as we have been the epicenter of the pro-life movement across the U.S. Look, I've said repeatedly this week that this is the culmination of a long time and a lot of work since Roe was enacted. And quite frankly, it's truly, people have been working to overturn Roe since before I was born. The Roe was decided in 1973, which is before I was born. And for us to finally get before the court and make the argument that, hey, like has happened many times before when the United States Supreme Court has set bad precedent because they got it wrong, this is an opportunity for them to get it right. And look, when it comes to abortion, I just want to be clear. And the fact is, in Mississippi particularly, and admittedly, we're one of the most conservative states, if not the most conservative state in America. But in Mississippi, this isn't a political issue. This isn't about Republicans or Democrats or independents. It's not even about right and left. This is a right and wrong issue. And we believe this is an opportunity for the Dobbs case, for the Mississippi case, to help right that wrong that was Roe v. Wade.
Wow, you're right. This has been a culmination of decades of pro-life work. Governor, I'd love to ask you if you can speak to State Attorney General Lynn Fitch and her leadership on this case.
Well, we appreciate everything that the Attorney General Fitch has done. She and I have been working together for many years now, but certainly since we both got elected in 2019, since she put her team in place, and I think they've done an excellent job, both from a strategy standpoint and from an argument standpoint before the court yesterday. And it's good to have a conservative female leading the charge in this legal fight.
Absolutely, and we are so grateful for your pro-life leadership and that you took the time to join us during this historic week. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony List, and John Bursch, senior counsel and vice president of appellate advocacy with Alliance Defending Freedom. He has argued 12 U.S. Supreme Court cases since 2011. Thank you both for being here this historic week. Marjorie, you were on the steps of the Supreme Court at that historic pro-life rally yesterday. What was the mood like? How did it compare to other abortion cases?
I've never experienced anything like yesterday, and I can only attest to the power of the Holy Spirit. There was the other side, literally on the other side of the fence. We were on one side, they were on the other. There were on our side, the whole diverse, beautiful pro-life movement from all over the country, completely unified, full of love, full of a life message. On the other side, where I would have stood not too long ago, it was not full of love. There was a lot of anger. And I would say just more on a strategic level, away from that, but a fruit of this is that the pro-life movement is very much on offense. And everyone felt that. Everyone knew that there was hope. It was a really beautiful moment.
That is a beautiful way to put it. John, from that legal perspective, can you break down what is the question the justices need to answer and what are the possible outcomes of this case?
Well, the big question is whether Roe versus Wade and Casey should remain on the books. Mississippi's primary argument is that those are bad precedents, sensationally bad precedents, egregiously wrong, and they should be reversed. And if the court doesn't go all the way, then whether they should at least get rid of the viability line, which protects states and individuals working through the democratic process to protect life before viability. So that's what the justices have to decide. One possible outcome is they just get rid of the viability line, and then it goes back to the states to try to negotiate what that looks like. Another would be that Roe and Casey are gone entirely, and then Susan B. Anthony is going to be working in every state to get pro-life laws in place. And it's probably too early to predict, but I think the consensus yesterday was that the Mississippi law will be upheld.
Wow, that's incredible. Marjorie, as a pro-life leader, how are we going to look back on this week in the pro-life history books?
I think we're going to have forgotten all the legal arguments, but we will remember one thing, that there were human rights battles that have been won over time, and this will rank as equal to all the other ones that we have surmounted, all the ones that we have won since abolition, suffrage, the civil rights movement. Now the pro-life movement, human rights movement is culminating.
Incredible. John, what did you make of the Supreme Court justices' comments and questions as you listened to oral arguments yesterday? Well,
there were some important ones. We start with the premise that life is a human right. And I felt like at least 6 of the 9 justices kind of got that concept. The justices that we're looking at in particular are Chief Justice Roberts and Justices Kavanaugh and Barrett. They're going to be the swing votes on whether they go all the way to reverse Roe. And they said some encouraging things. What Justice Kavanaugh said was that the Constitution is silent about abortion. And when the Constitution is silent, then the court has to be scrupulously neutral, what were his words, and leave that decision to the democratic process. So that was very encouraging. As for Justice Barrett, she said, well, imagine a world where you had a state and they had a 14th Amendment that simply said you've got a protection against due process. Where do you find an abortion right anywhere in that? And the attorneys for the abortion clinic in the United States government were not able to answer that question. And then you heard, as we expected, very positive comments from Justice Thomas, Justice Alito, Justice Gorsuch. So on the whole, we felt very confident about the argument.
Marjorie, it's sounding really encouraging on when it comes to the court. So should we expect some major pro-abortion reaction from the Biden administration and from Congress?
Oh, you bet. They have not been in a mode of legislating of late because they haven't had to. They've had everything. They've got the law completely in their hands. Now, as they find it slipping, when they find it slipping, they're going to have to, they will up their game. They have the big, deep money pot. So money gone into legislatures to try to fight our pro-life laws will happen right away. On the political side, they're going to be trying to defeat, of course, our candidates who make life a priority. And our candidates will be required to make life a priority very soon. So that's around the corner. Also, the abortion pill. We cannot lose sight of that. They will be pushing that more than ever. And that's another fight for a day that we can discuss and maybe another time.
Thank you for that reminder. John, we have about a minute left, but can you explain what was Mississippi's defense in the court yesterday, and how did the abortion clinic respond to that?
Their primary defense was that the court should overrule its precedent, and that's kind of a big deal. There's this notion that when the Supreme Court issues a ruling, we want to keep that in place so people can rely on it. But the problem with Roe and Casey is that they have been disastrous decisions. They have nothing to do with what the Constitution actually says. They were purely political, and they've proved to be unworkable. It puts the courts in the situation where they're in the middle of this political debate that really belongs in the democratic process. And the abortion clinic and the United States government didn't really have a good response to that. They kept pounding the table and saying, well, Roe and Casey are super precedents. Well, there are no such thing as super precedents in the law. And when the law is wrong, then it needs to be fixed. And Justice Kavanaugh gave a whole litany of cases, including Brown versus Board of Education, which demonstrate that the court does get it wrong sometimes.
That's incredible. And I know we were all speaking beforehand about the importance of praying for our justices right now, leading up to the Supreme Court decision. I want to encourage viewers, you can go to dobbscase.com, join Marjorie Dannenfelser on a prayer call every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So grateful to have you two experts here, Marjorie Dannenfelser, John Bursch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. While the Supreme Court justices have already heard the historic Dobbs abortion case this week, our work in the pro-life movement is far from being over. In fact, in these days immediately following oral arguments, we need to send a strong message to our Supreme Court justices. This time is critical. And that brings us to this week's call to action. Go to prolifeweekly.com and sign our petition urging the Supreme Court justices to modernize our laws and protect unborn children. When you sign and submit this petition, we will then send this petition to the High Court justices. Science has advanced considerably since Roe and Casey were decided in 1973 and 1992. We know more about unborn life than ever before. At 15 weeks, babies in the womb have fully formed noses and lips, eyelids and eyebrows. They can suck their thumbs. It is time we modernize our laws to reflect what science tells us today. You can send this pro-life message to the Supreme Court justices by going to prolifeweekly.com. Coming up, new poll numbers reveal troubling American views about having babies. I share the details and speak out next. Plus, we speak with two pro-life scientists to discuss how much science and technology have advanced since the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision and how it all supports the pro-life view.
This is the moment we've marched for and prayed for and worked for and advocated for so many years. It is just my deep honor to get to stand here at this moment with so many other women and with EWTN and to speak on behalf, to speak life into this culture and into that court.
We're out here, it's really important because we want to prove that all life is important in and outside the home.
We should be leading the world in protecting the vulnerable. America is meant to be a beacon of hope, a land for the free, and we attack the unborn in the womb right now. And that's something that we can't stand for. It has to change.
That is more pro-life reaction on the Supreme Court steps this week as the High Court took up the major abortion case, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. More and more adults say they never expect to have children, and our culture seems to be celebrating that trend. That is this week's Speak Out segment. Pew Research released troubling new poll numbers concerning American attitudes on having children. A rising share of U.S. adults who are not already parents say they are unlikely to ever have children, citing a range of reasons, including environmental concerns. Here are those latest numbers. About 44% of non-parents between the ages of 18 to 49 say it's not too likely or not at all likely they will have children someday. That is up 7 percentage points only since 2018. 56% of non-parents who are younger than 50 say it's unlikely they'll ever have children, citing they just do not want to have kids. This cultural trend of saying no to kids was even reflected in a satirical piece for The New Yorker in November titled, "Welcome to Your Decided Not to Have a Baby Shower." Listen, it is one thing if a couple is open to life and has not been blessed with babies. It is another thing if you have taken a vow of chastity and discerned that vocation. But that is not what we are talking about here. This rising trend of adults saying they are not interested in ever having kids should shake us and wake us up to an alarming new reality. It goes against everything in human evolution to not want to give birth to a new generation. While there are experts far wiser than I who could better explain these poll numbers, it seems to me that this is our culture of death on display. An apathy, perhaps even a fear of new life. But why is that? Pro-life movement, let us take it upon ourselves to be witnesses of the beauty and joy of life. Let us live a life that sparks hope in others, so they want to be open to life and share that gift with more people. For this week's Pro-Life Focus, we discuss the scientific argument to overturning Roe v. Wade. The pro-life research group, the Charlotte Lozier Institute, submitted an amicus brief in this week's Dobbs Supreme Court case, arguing the High Court needs to reconsider its previous abortion rulings because the scientific understanding of human life has greatly expanded since 1973. Here's part of the brief, quote, "Scientific and technological advancements since Roe and Casey have cemented the state's compelling interests in protecting human fetal life long before viability. For example, 4D ultrasonography has revolutionized the study of fetal behavior and neurology, giving direct and convincing proof of fetal discernment, intentionality, and sociality from as early as 12 weeks of life." I am joined now by two pro-life scientists, Dr. David Prentice, Vice President and Research Director of the Charlotte Lozier Institute, and Dr. Tara Sandra Lee is Director of Life Sciences at the Charlotte Lozier Institute. Welcome to you both. Thank you for being here for this big week. Tara, I want to start with you. Your group recently put out an image on social media showing how much ultrasound technology has evolved since Roe v. Wade. Can you just speak about that? How has ultrasound technology evolved over the years?
Ultrasound technology has advanced tremendously in the last 50 years. So if we look back to at the time of Roe, ultrasound was new, the equipment was bulky, had poor resolutions. What we could see of the unborn inside the womb was basically black dots on a white background or white dots on a black background. It's a white background, really grainy, right? You could barely pick out the unborn. But now today, ultrasound advanced rapidly after Roe, and we have now an unprecedented view of the unborn inside the womb. We can have 3D and 4D ultrasounds, real-time imaging. The pictures are so clear. I mean, we all have seen, ultrasound images, pictures on the refrigerator of the unborn inside the womb. My own son, I proudly put up his picture inside the womb, and that little nose that I saw in ultrasound is still the same, the nose he has now,
That's precious.
So it's just advanced so much. We can see the unborn so much more clearly.
It tells us the truth. David, you say Roe versus Wade is unscientific and outdated. What are some other examples of scientific advancements over the years? We know a lot more about fetal development, don't we?
We definitely do that. And certainly we can see conscious behavior so that at 14 weeks, these little babies can discern the difference between music and noise. At 12 weeks, they can start to experience pain. And I know you probably heard Justice Sotomayor mention yesterday that fetal pain didn't really exist, and it was only believed by a small fringe of doctors. Well, one of those doctors is Dr. Stuart Derbyshire, who is one of the world's leading pro-choice neuroscientists. And he had been an opponent, didn't believe in fetal pain until just a couple of years ago. He took an honest look at the science, the mounting evidence, and a year ago published a paper stating that as early as 12 weeks, these little babies in the womb can experience pain. And that realization has now become the standard of care when they do fetal surgery as early as 15 weeks. And it's realized that they can respond to painful stimuli and they need painkillers to prevent suffering.
Wow, that's incredible. Tara, this Supreme Court case centers on Mississippi's pro-life law that bans abortions at 15 weeks of pregnancy. What do we know about the development of a 15-week-old's baby?
We know so much about the development of a 15-week-old baby. We know that by 15 weeks, the unborn baby has a functional beating heart that has already beaten nearly 16 million times. That baby has arms and functioning arms and legs and fingers and toes that are wiggling. Not only that, but they exhibit complex behaviors and facial expressions, so they can yawn, they can hiccup. But what's really exciting is that we even know that by that point they know if they're left-handed or right-handed. So they have a preference for whether they suck their left or right thumb. I mean, so it's incredible how much they've advanced by 15 weeks. Absolutely. And that's why Mississippi's law is not extreme, because we know that if we look at the European countries, 47 out of 50 countries, European countries,
have more. Even more extreme.
Even more extreme.
We have less than a minute left, but I want to ask you, David Prentice, how has this concept of viability developed over the past 50 years?
Well, as Justice Blackmun put it, when he wrote the decision, it was arbitrary. At that point, they thought 28 weeks was the limit. By the turn of the century, 24 weeks. And we've heard stories this year of babies born at 21 weeks and a day or 2 days. And there's been half a century of scientific and medical advance, and we would hope that Justice Sotomayor and Justice Kagan would follow the science.
Absolutely. We're going to leave it at that. Thank you both for joining me here for this important discussion.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And that does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Please remember to pray for the Supreme Court justices as they consider this major abortion case. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're there. You can also send us a message by emailing prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. We love to hear from you. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.